I was scraping last night's stew into a small bowl when I noticed that boy again standing at the edge of my yard, thin hoodie, hungry eyes, pretending he wasn't watching me. And right here, before I go on, subscribe, hit the like button, and tell me where you're from and how old you are. For you, it's a small thing, but for me, it's the reason I keep telling these stories. Come here, I called. You look like you haven't eaten since Tuesday. He hesitated, then shuffled closer. Up close, he looked even more fragile, like a strong gust of wind would send him rolling down the street. You got a name? I asked. Darian, he whispered. Clyde, I said. Sit, eat before it runs away. He laughed a tiny laugh, first one I'd heard on my porch in years. He ate fast, like someone might yank the bowl away. I tried not to stare at the bruise on his cheek. Kids don't get bruises like that from just falling. You got folks around? He shrugged. Sometimes. That word sat in my chest like a cold coin. He left quickly, almost scared to linger. But the next day he came again. And the next. Soon enough, I was cooking extra on purpose, setting out 2 plates without even thinking. And I didn't know it then. But this boy, he was about to break something in me. I didn't even realize was still fragile. But that was only the first crack. The real break was yet to come. Darian showed up the next afternoon holding something behind his back, like he was hiding state secrets. I thought it might be a rock, or a frog, or, knowing my luck, somebody's missing mailbox. Instead, he pulled out a crushed granola bar. For you, he said, since you always feed me. I laughed so hard I scared a pigeon off my railing. Kid, if I eat this, I'll be chewing aluminum for a week. He grinned big, toothy, finally not scared to look me in the eyes. And right there, something warm pushed inside my chest, a feeling I hadn't felt since my grandkids were small enough to gift me, macaroni glued to cardboard. We sat on the porch, me sipping cheap instant coffee, him kicking his legs like a restless bird. You in school today? I asked. Yeah, he said. Then he added, kinda, which, in kid language, means, no, but don't ask. I didn't push. I just reached into the pantry, found a cookie tin, and handed it to him. He opened it, like it was buried treasure. Whoa, cookies. Don't act surprised, I said. I bake when I'm stressed. He blinked. So, you bake every day? I nearly spit my coffee. Watch it, troublemaker. He laughed again, louder this time. Neighbors peeked out their windows. They weren't used to hearing joy on my porch. Last time they heard a noise from here, it was me yelling at a squirrel for stealing my tomatoes. But when Darian finished eating and went quiet, his face changed, eyes distant, shoulders tight. What's wrong? I asked gently. He picked at the cookie tin. Nothing. Just, I wish home felt like this. That sentence hit me right in the ribs. Because I remembered when home used to feel like something too, before my kids drifted away, before the house turned into a museum of things nobody visits. I reached out and tapped the railing. You're safe here. Anytime. He nodded, then suddenly leaned forward and hugged me quick, awkward, like he wasn't sure if hugs were allowed. And before I could even breathe, he whispered, Thanks, Dad. My heart stopped, or dropped, or exploded. Maybe all 3. But before I could say a word, he bolted off the porch and vanished down the street, and something inside me cracked wide open. But that moment was nothing compared to what I discovered the next day when he didn't show up at all. The next day I sat on the porch with 2 plates, one for me, one for him, trying not to look like a desperate old man waiting for a date who wasn't coming. I even tried acting casual, whistling like I didn't care, but I can't whistle worth a damn. Sounded like a kettle dying. 4 o'clock. No, Darian. 5. Still nothing. By 6, I'd paced my porch so much I was pretty sure I'd worn a path into the wood. Maybe he's just busy, I muttered. Then I immediately corrected myself. Busy doing what? Filing taxes? I finally grabbed my jacket and started walking the neighborhood. At my age, walking the neighborhood is basically an Olympic sport. I even waved at Mrs. Haverly across the street, hoping she'd somehow volunteer information about mysterious missing children like she volunteers gossip about everyone's trash bins. She squinted at me. You look troubled, Clyde. I'm fine, I said. You haven't seen a small kid around. Hoodie, skinny. Looks like a stiff breeze could knock him over. You just described half the youth in this city, she replied. Useless. I kept walking. I checked the playground empty, except a teenager vaping watermelon clouds big enough to cause weather. I checked the corner store, no boy, just a cashier who looked allergic to life. By the time I returned home, the sky was purple, and my knees were writing complaint letters. I sat back on the porch, angry at myself for caring so much. Why did one missing kid twist my insides like this? I barely reacted this strongly when my son-in-law accidentally backed into my mailbox for the third time. I was about to go inside when I saw something under Darian's usual step, a tiny scrap of paper lodged between the boards. At first, I thought it was trash, but then I recognized the awkward handwriting. Just 3 words. Sorry, don't come. My stomach dropped. I read it again, and again. Then I noticed something else. Dark smudges near the edges. Mud, maybe, or something worse. I felt something old, fatherly, fierce wake up in my chest. A feeling I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't about to sit quietly. Not this time. Not again. Because the next thing I did, well, that's when the real trouble began. I don't know what got into me. Maybe all the years of being ignored by my own kids finally boiled over, but I grabbed my coat like a man half my age and marched straight toward the only place Darian ever mentioned in passing, the apartments behind the old laundromat. Now, those apartments, let's just say they make my house look like the Four Seasons. Paint peeling, stairs wobbling, and one of the windows had a sock taped over it. A sock. I haven't seen anything that tragic since Reuben tried to fix my gutter with duct tape and prayer. I climbed the creaky staircase, each step complaining louder than my back. The hallway smelled like boiled cabbage and mystery. I knocked on the closest door. An old man with one eyebrow, literally just one, opened. What? He barked. I'm looking for a boy named Darian. He squinted. Is that a medication? I stared at him. What kind of medication knocks on my porch and eats all my stew? He shrugged. Depends on the stew. Useless. I knocked on another door. A lady answered holding a chihuahua that looked like it wanted to sue the world. You seen a boy? Don't talk to me about boys, she snapped. My grandson flushed my dentures down the toilet last week. The dog growled for emphasis. I escaped before she started listing other crimes. Finally, at the last door, I heard voices inside shouting, something breaking, then silence. My stomach tightened. I knocked. A man opened the door, shirtless, eyes red, smelling like every bad decision I ever made in my 20s. What? He snarled. I tried to keep my voice steady. I'm looking for a kid named Darian. His eyes flicked sideways. Just for a second. That was enough. Then he leaned closer. No kid here. Get lost, Grandpa. Grandpa. Oh, I hate that word when it's said like an insult. When my grandkids say it, fine. When he said it, my blood pressure did a backflip. I put my foot in the door before he could slam it. He shoved back. Move it, old man. Make me. I snapped, then immediately regretted it because I am, in fact, an old man, and he looked like he bench-pressed microwaves for fun. He pushed harder. My foot slipped. The door slammed shut, nearly taking a toe with it. I stood there, breathing hard, clutching the railing so I didn't fall down the stairs like a dramatic Victorian lady. But I heard something through the door. Not shouting. Not breaking. A whisper. A tiny one. Clyde? My heart nearly tore in two. He was inside. And if he sounded like that small, scared, barely audible, then something was very, very wrong. I straightened my shoulders, gripping the railing like it was a battle flag. If nobody was going to help that boy, I would. Even if it meant breaking rules I hadn't broken since Nixon was president. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat at my kitchen table, sipping stale coffee, staring at that crumpled note. Sorry, don't come. My mind kept replaying that tiny whisper through the door. Clyde? He said it like a drowning kid calling out for a life preserver, By 7 a.m., my emotions had brewed into something dangerous. The kind of determination that makes old men do things that end with paramedics shaking their heads on the sidewalk. But I wasn't stupid. Not brave either. Just tired of watching people fall through cracks nobody bothers fixing. So I called the one person who owed me more favors than the bank ever did. My neighbor, Luther. Now, Luther is 73, half deaf, half blind, and fully convinced he was a spy in 1969. He wasn't. He sold vacuum cleaners. But he has the confidence of a man who believes he outran the KGB. Useful trait. He answered on the second ring. Luther here. State your emergency. It's me, I said. Oh, then forget the emergency. What's going on? I filled him in. He gasped so loudly I thought he swallowed his dentures. That boy is calling you? Calling you Dad? Clyde, that's emotional responsibility. You ready for that? No, I admitted, but he needs help. And you want backup? Yes. You want legendary backup? No, just normal. Too late. Wear shoes you can run in. I regretted everything. We headed back to the apartment building. Luther dressed like he was going undercover, dark coat, sunglasses, and a hat so wide he looked like a confused cowboy. I'll distract the guy, he whispered dramatically. You slip inside. How? He shrugged. Improvise. You're creative. Once you fixed your fence with a cookie tin. That was one time, Luther. And it held for 8 years. He wasn't wrong. We climbed the stairs. My heart thumped so loudly I was sure the whole building heard it. Luther knocked hard. The door flew open. There stood the same shirtless, red-eyed man. What now? He barked. Luther pushed his sunglasses down his nose. Sir, he announced, we are conducting a neighborhood survey about, water pressure. The man blinked. What? Very important, Luther insisted, pulling out a notebook. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your... I didn't let him finish. The moment the man turned slightly toward Luther, I slipped down the side of the hallway, toward a half-open utility door. Was this smart? Absolutely not. Would my daughter call this reckless behavior? Yes. Would she be right? Also yes. But through that door, I saw something a flash of a small foot. A shoe I recognized. Darian, curled up on a blanket, head down, hands shaking. My chest tightened so hard it burnt. But before I could enter, the shirtless man shouted, Hey! Where do you think you're going? I froze. Well, mostly froze. My left knee kept trembling on its own. He stormed toward me, and that's when I realized something very important. I had absolutely no plan. But Darian looked up, saw me, and whispered the one thing that turned me from scared to furious. Clyde, don't let him take me back. I stepped forward, and what happened next? Even I didn't see coming. The man grabbed my shoulder, and for a second my whole skeleton made a sound like an old chair. Get out of here, he growled. This ain't your business. Normally, I avoid confrontation. I'm not built for fights. I'm built for sitting, complaining about weather, and eating soft foods. But when he touched me, shoved me, I felt something old and stubborn flare up. A father instinct I thought had died out years ago. I'm not leaving without the boy, I said. He scoffed. What boy? Behind him, Darian whispered. Me. The man turned, annoyed. I told you shut up. He moved toward the kid. And that's when I acted on pure instinct and a lifetime of poor decision-making. I grabbed the nearest object I could find, which was a mop. A flimsy, dollar store mop that smelled like lemon-scented disappointment. Back off, I warned, pointing it at him like a medieval spear. He stared at it, then at me, then started laughing loud, wheezing, horrible laughing. Oh, that's adorable, he said. Old man's gonna fight me with a mop. Behind me, Luther whispered fiercely. Aim for the knees. Knees are universal weak points. Not helping, Luther. The man stepped closer. Drop it before you embarrass yourself. No, I said, and to my surprise, my voice didn't shake. He's a child. He's scared, and someone's got to stand up for him. The man rolled his shoulders. Fine. You want to act like his daddy? Then take responsibility. He stepped aside. just stepped aside. I didn't trust it, but I didn't waste the moment. I walked into the tiny room where Darian was curled up. His eyes were red, his hands trembling. He looked up at me like I was the last safe thing in a burning house. "You okay?" I asked softly. He shook his head. Not even a little lie to make me feel better. "Come on," I said. "Let's get you out of here." He stood slowly, leaned into me. Too light, too tired. Kids shouldn't move like that. But the moment we stepped toward the hallway, the man blocked the exit again. "Nope," he said. "He's not going with you." I tightened my grip on Darian. "He doesn't want to stay." "He's not your kid," the man snapped, and that was the line. The one that broke something in me instead of him. I stared him down. "Apparently I'm more of a father to him than you'll ever be." For a moment, he froze. Then his face twisted into something ugly. He lunged, but not toward me, toward Darian. And that's when everything went sideways fast, loud, and completely out of control. Because the person who stopped him was someone neither of us expected. The man lunged forward, arms out, face twisted, and I braced myself, clutching Darian like a human shield made of bones and bad joints. But before he reached us, something huge slammed into him from the side. Luther. All 73 years of him. Launching like a walrus fired out of a cannon. They both crashed into a pile of old paint cans, making a sound that definitely violated several building codes. The man shouted, "Are you insane?" Luther yelled back, "I was trained for this in '69. "No, you were not," I shouted. "Let me have this, Clyde." The chaos bought us a moment. I dragged Darian into the hallway, my heart hammering like it was trying to retire early. Upstairs, neighbors opened their doors to watch, like we were their evening entertainment. One woman holding a laundry basket whispered, "Is this a robbery?" "No," I wheezed. "It's Tuesday." Darian clung to my sleeve. When we reached the stairs, he whispered, "Please, don't leave me here." "I'm not," I said, and I meant it with everything in me. Behind us, Luther was still wrestling the man, mostly by lying on top of him and refusing to move, which, honestly, was an effective tactic. "Clyde!" Luther called. "Get the boy out!" "I can hold him." "How long?" "I don't know. I didn't stretch today." I guided Darian down the steps, one shaky step at a time. When we reached the bottom, I finally dared to look at him. His cheeks were wet, quiet tears. Fast ones. Like he didn't want me to see. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I told you not to come." I crouched down so he didn't have to look up. When someone you care about is in trouble, you show up anyway. He blinked fast. No one ever did. My throat tightened so hard I had to cough just to breathe. This boy didn't need pity. He needed someone to stand still when everything else around him moved wrong. We walked toward the exit slow, careful, me shielding him like a flimsy, out-of-warranty bodyguard. But right as we reached the door, a new figure blocked the entrance. A woman, tall, dark hair, sharp eyes, a uniform, Child Protective Services. She looked at me, then at Darian, then at the staircase behind us where distant banging and yelling still echoed. "Sir," she said, "I received an anonymous call about a child in danger." Looks like the caller wasn't exaggerating. Anonymous call. I knew who that was. My knees almost gave out from relief, from fear, from the realization that this situation wasn't over. Not even close. "Is he with you?" she asked. I felt Darian grip my sleeve tighter. I want to be," he whispered. She raised an eyebrow at me, calculating, cautious. "Sir," she said slowly, "there's a lot we need to talk about." And there, in that moment, I realized something terrifying. Saving Darian from that apartment was just the beginning, because saving him from the system would be 10 times harder. "The CPS worker her badge," said Maribel Rowan, guided us outside like she was escorting a fragile museum exhibit and a confused old man, which, to be fair, I was. Darian stayed glued to my side, gripping my sleeve like it was the last rope on a sinking ship. "Sir," Maribel began, "I need to ask you some questions. First, your relationship to the child?" Before I could answer, Darian blurted, He's kinda like my dad. The words slammed into my chest so hard I nearly forgot how to stand. Maribel raised an eyebrow so high it almost left her forehead. I see, she said. And how long has this relationship been going on? Well, that sounded suspicious in every possible way. 2 months, I said quickly. That sounds worse, she muttered under her breath. I cleared my throat. He came to my porch hungry. I fed him, that's all. No funny business. She gave me a look. Sir, please never use the phrase funny business when talking to CPS. Right, noted. She crouched down to Darian's level. Honey, can you tell me why you didn't feel safe at home? Darian's shoulders tightened. I don't want to talk about it. She nodded softly. You don't have to. Not yet. Then she looked at me again. Where exactly were you taking him? To my house, I said honestly. He needed help. You can't just take home a child who isn't yours. I didn't take him, he followed me. She scribbled something on her clipboard. That did not feel reassuring. Suddenly, the building door banged open, and Luther staggered out, hair sticking sideways, shirt stretched at the collar. I held him, he gasped, bending over, wheezing dramatically. I held him for a full minute and 30 seconds. That's a new record. Maribel blinked. Sir, who is this? My backup, I said. Darian tugged on my sleeve, whispering, Can we go, please? Maribel sighed, deeply, the kind of sigh social workers probably practice in training. All right, she said. Protocol says I take him with me for temporary placement. Darian flinched, hard. No, he whispered. Please don't. Not another house. Not strangers. I want to stay with him. He pointed at me. With Clyde. Maribel rubbed her temples. This is complicated. Very, very complicated. I knelt beside Darian. Listen, kid. Whatever happens, I'm not leaving you behind. Not again. His eyes brimmed with tears. He tried to blink away. Maribel looked between us, seeing something real. Something messy. Something that didn't fit into forms or rules. Finally, she said, There is one option. Not common. Not simple. I stood up straighter. What option? She closed her clipboard. You'd have to file to become his emergency kinship guardian. Paperwork. Evaluations. Home inspection. Interviews. Proof of financial stability. It's a lot. My stomach flipped. Me? At my age? Being someone's guardian again? But then Darian slipped his hand into mine. Small. Cold. Trusting. I swallowed hard. What do I have to do? I asked. Maribel gave a small smile. Be willing to fight. I squeezed Darian's hand. I've been doing that since the day my kids stopped calling. And I meant every word. But neither of us knew yet just how ugly and how beautiful this fight was going to get. The paperwork started the very next morning. Thick stacks of forms that looked like they were printed sometime during the Eisenhower administration. Maribel sat at my kitchen table sorting documents while I made coffee strong enough to wake the dead. Darian hovered near the doorway like a nervous cat. Every time the floor creaked, he flinched. Every time I stepped too far from him, he drifted closer again. Sir, Maribel said, tapping her pen, do you understand what this process involves? I nodded, though I absolutely did not. Of course. Forms, interviews, inspections, bureaucracy, my natural enemy. She raised an eyebrow. It's more intense than most people expect, especially for someone your age. My age? I said, offended. I'm spry. Darian snorted. Loudly. Traitor, Maribel continued. We'll need to check your financial situation. I live modestly, I said, but I'm responsible. We'll evaluate the house for safety. He already tested the stairs, I said. Slid down the railing yesterday. Nearly gave me a heart attack, but the railing survived. Clyde, Darian hissed, embarrassed. Maribel sighed. And there will be interviews. Many interviews. With who? I asked. She flipped a page. Your family. My blood pressure rose so fast I could hear it. My family? I repeated. Yes, she said. We need to confirm you have support. I laughed. A short, bitter bark. Support? My daughter calls only when she wants me to sign a loan form. My son hasn't spoken to me in 8 months, and my son-in-law thinks I'm a walking wallet with legs. Darian looked up at me soft, worried. Maribel folded her hands. Clyde, if your family objects, even subtly, the court may deny placement. The room felt colder, Darian whispered. They're gonna take me away, aren't they? I turned to him fast. No. Hey, no. I won't let that happen. But what if they say you're too old, or you're alone, or... Then I'll lie, I said. Maribel choked on her coffee. Sir, please don't say that out loud. Fine, then I'll exaggerate. Not better. But Darian cracked a tiny smile. That was enough. Maribel glanced at my fridge, covered in magnets, old recipes, and one picture of me holding my late wife on our anniversary. She softened. Look, the truth is that kinship guardianship isn't about being perfect. It's about being the safest option. And right now, you're the only person this boy trusts. I swallowed the lump rising in my throat. Then the phone rang. I checked the screen and nearly groaned. Tamsin, my daughter. Of course. Maribel nodded toward it. Answer. Put it on speaker. I did. Dad, she said, sounding irritated already. I heard from your neighbor that you've kidnapped a child. What is going on? I closed my eyes. Here we go. First of all, I said, I did not kidnap anyone. Then why is there a child living in your house? Because he needed help. Well, Dad, that's exactly how people end up on the news. Behind me, Darian shrank into his chair. Tamsin, I said, trying to stay calm. The boy is scared. He was in a bad situation. That's not your responsibility. It is now. Dad, be realistic. You can't take care of a child. You can barely take care of yourself. Last week, you microwaved a fork. That was one time. Maribel tapped her pen meaningfully. I lowered my voice. Please, Tamsin, just don't fight me on this. Not yet. Silence. Then she sighed. I'll think about it. She hung up. I leaned back in my chair, exhausted. Maribel closed her folder. You know, that could have gone a lot worse. Really? Oh, absolutely. Darian slid closer to me and leaned lightly against my arm. Like he belonged there. Like he believed I wouldn't let him fall. And I wouldn't. Never again. But the real storm was coming faster than either of us expected because someone else had just found out about Darian and they were on their way. The storm arrived 20 minutes later. A car screeched into my driveway so fast it nearly flattened my mailbox. I flinched. That driving style could only mean one person. My son, Jory. He leaped out, slammed the door, and stomped toward the house like he was auditioning to play Angry Man -3 in a cheap cop show. Dad, he barked. Where is he? Where's the kid? Darian froze beside me. Jory stormed into the kitchen, took one look at Darian, then spun toward me. You've lost your mind, he snapped. You can't just adopt strays! He's a child, not a stray, I said, stepping in front of Darian. You can't handle this! You're old! You forget things! You almost burned the house down last Christmas! That was the cat! I shouted. She jumped on the stove! Darian tugged my sleeve, whispering, Clyde, it's okay. But it wasn't. Not by a long shot. Jory turned to him. Kid, pack your stuff. You're leaving. Darian shrank backward like he'd been hit. I stepped between them. For the first time in years, I didn't feel old. I felt solid. No, I said. He's staying right here. Jory stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Are you hearing yourself? You can barely carry a bag of groceries. I'd carry this boy 10 miles if I had to. Something in my voice made even Jory go quiet. I turned to Darian, his eyes wet, trembling. Listen, I told him gently. Nobody is dragging you anywhere. Not again. Maribel stood up, watching carefully, ready to intervene. But to everyone's shock, Jory's face slowly changed. Something softened, crumpled. He sank awkwardly into a chair. Dad, he said quietly, rubbing his hands together. I just I don't want you getting hurt or overwhelmed. You're all alone here. I'm not alone, I said. Not anymore. He looked at Darian, then back at me. You really care about him, don't you? I nodded, more than I've cared about anything in a long time. A long silence. Then slowly, reluctantly, Jory let out a breath. All right, he said. If this is really what you want, I'll support it. I nearly fell over in shock. Seriously? He smirked. Don't make me repeat myself. Maribel nodded approvingly. That will help his case tremendously. Darian stared at Jory timidly. Jory cleared his throat. Hey, kid. Sorry I yelled. Darian gave a small, shy nod. Then he turned to me. Do I really get to stay? I felt my throat close up. Yeah, kid. You're home. He stepped into me slow at first, then hugged me tight around the middle. The kind of hug that feels like glue for every cracked piece inside you. My eyes stung. I didn't hide it. Maribel closed her folder. Clyde, I'll fast-track your emergency guardianship. With the family support, it shouldn't be hard. I nodded, overwhelmed. When she left, and Jory left, and the sun dipped low behind the porch, Darian looked up at me and whispered the words that broke me and fixed me all at once. Good night, Dad. I put a hand on his shoulder. Good night, son. For the first time in years, my house wasn't quiet. It wasn't empty. It wasn't a place I waited in. It was a place someone needed. I thought I was saving this boy. But truthfully, he saved me right back.